Hello, and welcome to another episode of our Marion County Children's Services podcast. My name is Elizabeth Moore. I'm a foster care and community engagement coordinator, and I'm super stoked for this episode because this is the first time that I have two guests from different places and my first repeat guest. So I'll go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves again. Erin, do you want to go ahead and start?
I'm Erin Slater, and I'm the director of Marion Mentors, a mentoring organization that's through the Marion Family YMCA.
All right.
And I'm Ide Akoje. I'm the executive director of Marion County's Family and Children First Council. We just connect families to resources and help them achieve their goals in the community.
Awesome. And so normally this is the time that we would go into what does your organization do and all of this, but we've already done all of that with both of you guys. So if you are watching this episode and you have any questions about Erin's organization or Ide's organization, please feel free to go back and watch those episodes. We are going to talk about something a little different today. I mean, kind of different, a little different things we haven't talked about, but this is the most stressful time of year during potentially hopefully the most stressful year of our lives. And
yeah, let's not do this again.
Yeah, no kidding. And so I really wanted to have these two people on just because I really there's a lot of people out there that I enjoy and respect and all that, but obviously have a relationship with the two of you as well. And so I wanted to have you guys on so if we could talk about some of those things. We virtually got together last week and kind of had a pre-conversation to our conversation because some people in this little triad are planners and some people are not. that hurts me. And so we had a little bit of a pre-conversation, so I'm really hoping to bring some more of that back out to this. So since we're talking about the most stressful time of year, and if you want to go back and watch the episode with Dr. Prater, we did talk about managing stress, but I would love if the two of you would also share with people how you are managing stress this crazy season, both holiday season and season of our lives, I suppose. So Erin, the way the video flows, it just makes sense for me to ask you some of these questions first. So.
Sure, and I will say, listening to Dr. Prater's video, I also work out with him and different things, so I related a lot to what he had to say. I strongly recommend listening to it just because he's super smart. So I kind of embody a lot of things that he has to talk about, but one of the ways that I have always managed stress from very young is working out. Literally, I did 4 sports in high school, and my parents, if I was ever in between seasons, didn't want me home because I drove them absolutely insane. I think Jared feels the same way if I'm not working out. So that's something that's just always been a part of me in a way that it's literally like my therapy. And so I just really manage my stress by going to the gym. Having that community around me is super important. It gives me a sense of normalcy in a time that it's lacking a lot of normalcy and some human adult interaction, because also I have 2 little girls, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and having that during a pandemic is also stressful and needs I need to get away sometimes too. So that's just a way that I've been have always leaned on, is just moving my body.
B-Day.
Awesome. Well, a couple things for me. One is self-practice, and the other is just communal practice. So when we all spent time in our mother's womb, right? And so that was the safest environment that we could ever be in. And during that time, what are you hearing? You're hearing a heartbeat. So it's just that rhythmic boop, 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 boop. And so when you're just, even after conception, you're starting off with living a life of rhythm. And so as adults, we still kind of follow that pattern. And one of the ways that I can incorporate rhythm into my life that helps kind of regulate me when I'm feeling stressed or my thoughts are too much is I love to listen to all sorts of music. I'm hoping I don't get called out right here because I'm not a liar, and I I will disclose some of the different musical tastes that I have.
What type
Uh,
of music?
I was gonna
DJ?
say, like, you should probably share because saying it like that makes it sound really weird. Like,
yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, so I have a diverse amount of musical taste. Sometimes I need music that is up tempo, like that keeps me going and just gets me kind of out of my head and into actions. So with that up tempo music, I've been listening to The Strokes lately. I've been listening to Arctic Monkeys, like all sorts of different music that really gets my heart going, right? Um, I'm also working from home for the most part, and then in the office setting. So a lot of sitting down, a lot of staring at my screen, and that's just a drag. So how does Ide like to concentrate? Um, a while ago, Ide discovered a wonderful musical genre of Renaissance music and kind of getting into the subgenre. I love 13th century Danish Renaissance music. Okay. And hear me
Same.
out. It's the predecessor of all the music that we're listening to today. Actually, right now, I'm getting into German Renaissance music, so I'm going a little southeast, for the holidays and whatnot. But point being, that's my that's my musical rhythm. Okay, you know what? 900 years ago, they weren't laughing at that. When the hottest albums were dropping back then, they weren't laughing at that. But point being, I think music is such an
Yeah.
important component to regulate. And what happens for me is that sometimes I overthink just in general. And so when I can have something playing in my ears, it almost reduces the background noise to kind of like a low hum, and I can concentrate on whatever I'm doing. So I always have something playing in one room. When I go into another room, there's another set of music playing. So like it's kind of like a concert in my house. So until my wife comes home and then we talk. So that's part one.
well, that's great. I feel like I take pieces of both of what you're saying. Like I have my AirPods right here, and I usually have one of those in whether I'm at home. Usually when I'm at home because my kids are virtual schooling and I'm working from home. I have my earpods in to kind of drown out some of the other noise that's happening. And definitely one of the things I liked about Dr. Prater's episode was we talked a lot about some things that you can do without even having to be at a gym. So even if you don't have that membership, if that's not something that's feasible right now, that there are some things that are still out there that you can certainly use to just self-care is super important. My philosophy is you can't pour from an empty glass. So obviously have to take care of yourself first. And the three of us are in helping fields. We're out there in the community and we're trying to connect people. And so I just wanted to be able to share that. Like I said, having people hear what we do, and it's important. It's definitely an imperative part of what we do and what people should be doing. So
And I know I laugh at Ide's music choices, but I haven't tried it yet. So backstory too with Tim's or Dr. Prater's podcast, like I thought nasal breathing was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, why does this man keep bringing up nasal breathing? And now I practice it at home, like when I'm arguing with my three-nager, and I'm like really trying to center myself. And it's made such a difference, not only in my workouts, but just in my daily life of like how to regulate my own emotions when dealing with a 3-year-old that doesn't know how to regulate her own emotions. And so I know we laugh and joke at you, Ide, but if that's what works for you, like, I think that's awesome.
That's great.
Can I add another thing about nasal breathing? I have a similar story. So I'm probably one of the biggest mouth breathers in the community, and I wasn't aware of that. Well, so my wife would make comments, and I'm like, yeah, come on,
Just nitpicking.
you just live with me too long. It's cool. So I'm at the office one day. I'm working really hard on something, and I look up and I see my service coordinator like looking at me, and she asks like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I think so. And she basically told me I'm breathing really, really loud. And I'm like, usually, okay, so the first stage is extreme shame because that is so vulnerable to be told. Because I'm asking, how long was I mouth breathing? You know what I mean? And what sort of effects does it have in the environment and all that? My second stage was, I must do research about the dangers of mouth breathing. There are tons of
Oh
research
no.
about the dangers of mouth breathing. It can cause, obviously, breathing issues. It can cause cranial issues. And so, again, I've had too much coffee today, so that's why I'm going off. Getting to nose breathing is a wonderful thing. And
It's life
anytime I can learn
changing.
to practice it, I go for it. And it's easy and it's free. All you need
Yes.
is 2 nostrils or
And
one.
there are a lot of benefits.
Okay.
All right. So now I've had 2 episodes where we've discussed nasal breathing. Like
Who would have thought?
what a bizarre thing to, have repeated, but that's great. It is good stuff. So sure. So how has COVID affected the way you guys are providing services in the community?
Me,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have had to switch our model of mentoring. We kind of are going now to more of an e-mentoring situation, especially now when all of Marion City schools are going back to virtual, because we did have some in-person matches meeting, but now we have pretty much everyone going virtual. So this is all new territory for our program. I know there's mentoring programs out there that have been doing this for a very long time, and luckily there are best practices out there, so I'm able to kind of now quickly read through those things and try and implement that into our program. Yes, it is good and nice that other people are also going through this and scrambling to get this together too. But so we have people matches meeting either on Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime. Like today, I literally just handed one of the girls my phone to talk to her mentor. I was still there. We follow the rules of 3, that none of our mentors and mentees are alone while they're chatting virtually. So we're definitely trying to follow those best practices. But yeah, just doing everything virtually has been a challenge, just kind of getting that all set up. But once it gets going, I think some of the mentors, myself included, were hesitant to kind of switch to this model. Not that we really had a choice, but is it gonna be as impactful? Are the kids gonna be into it? And all these different questions. But I really have seen that it's just like meeting in person. Like, obviously they're not getting to play the board games that they want to play or different things like that, but the kids are reacting so well to it, better than I ever thought that they would. And so we're just serving them in different ways. We're showing up in whatever way we can. There's mentors writing letters. Like I said, there's some phone calls being had. So just whatever way we can keep them connected at a distance, we're definitely trying. And it's been overall successful. I think some people don't know that we are still mentoring, and so that's part of it. We've lost a lot of our numbers are definitely down this year, but I've just realized like I can't focus on the numbers this year and just really foster those relationships that we have going, and however we can best support them, that's what I'm focusing on.
Great. Ide?
Yeah, well, it's great what you said, because even when there's person-to-person interaction with masks on, you lose that opportunity for what's called mirroring, where people can actually begin to read your facial expressions. And if you want just a live experiment of that, go to a grocery store, and the emotional terror that can sometimes come up with wondering, how is this person like perceiving me at that moment? Because we're lacking that the whole facial recognition, so to speak. So I think it's great what you're doing, still being able to connect people and have that interpersonal contact. For me, I'm in an administration position in the sense that I'm not doing as much direct service, but I'm connecting the connectors to the resources. And so the biggest shift that we've had to make is what resources are available and out there, and how do we get it to the people who will get it to other people. So I've been ramping up our Facebook page and presence. And simply put, anytime I find a resource or a training or some sort of happening in the community, I make sure that that's available. So I don't have to contact 50 people. It's right there on that page for people to go to. And then we're also working on what I'm calling a living document of resources. So the county or the state, periodically, they'll release a grant or some sort of funding opportunity, whether it's for food and cash assistance, whether it's for tutoring or teaching assistance and things like that. And again, sometimes it's not about sometimes it's more about how do I get the information to the people rather than the scarcity of the resource itself. And so we're creating this document with all these different resources that are relevant to the families that we work with, and make sure we distribute that document to our partners and to family members so they can readily access that information without having to make one more call. Because how many calls are people making these days, trying to figure out unemployment benefits, all that. So if we can reduce that by a little bit, that'll kind of reduce that stress that we were talking about previously. So things like that.
Right. I'll touch a little bit too on, what we're doing here at the agency. So our workers are still out in the field. They still knock on doors. They still do visits. Obviously taking proper precautions. We are wearing masks, cleaning. We are not allowing workers to carpool anymore, which as a former intake worker, I know what it was like to want to go to a home visit and have somebody else with you just to kind of have that extra support. And so our workers are, still doing that stuff. They're just a little bit more isolated, I guess, but obviously for safety reasons. And there's certainly rhymes and reasons for all of that. We have a small staff. And so we know that, especially if they're carpooling and there's two of them and one of them gets sick, that now takes out, in some of those places, half the unit. So that's really hard. We also have kids who, are placed in private, with private providers. They're not local foster parents. And so we have to go off of some of their regulations too. So some of them may not be allowing caseworkers to come visit. We are still able to ensure safety. We still do video chats. In fact, we just got a new document to support our workers from our director today about conducting very well done virtual visits. So still ensuring safety, still, everyone, it's so interesting to just see how all agencies and organizations out there are, adapting. We're all just adapting. We're doing the best that we can to serve the community. So what have you guys seen as far as changes in kids or families in our community with all of this COVID impact? Aaron. Ide, go Ide.
I'm just going to give a small answer because, again, I don't have as much direct interaction.
Sure.
And I know Aaron's a superhero in that regard. So let's get the worst out of the way first. And to the superstar. There we go.
Oh my.
So I guess I'll say in general, kind of what you said, Elizabeth, the ability for people to adjust in the midst of this vulnerability of uncertainty and things like that has been amazing. I know there are tired people and tired faces, but every day you're showing up and you're doing what you can. And I think that's amazing. And sometimes I'll drive by Grant and it's just so great to see kids outside, like waiting after practice or waiting for their parents to pick them up. And I can still see that joy in their faces, and like I can feel that youthful energy. And so there is suffering, there is difficulty, but the resiliency of the human spirit is sometimes you don't see that and see those reservoirs until you get into a crisis moment like we've been in. And so it's humbling. So.
Great. Aaron?
I think I piggyback off of that, just in the sense that I do get to see the kids And I think that they are so resilient, and they just face these everyday changes. Like, I would, I mean, me today as an adult, like, it stresses me out. Every single day there's something new. And I think I think the kids are just handling it way better than adults are. So I just want them to like get the credit that they deserve, because I mean, when I go over to Grant Middle School and hang out with some of the kids, like, they're just like, yeah, we're here, we're wearing a mask. Like, there's no complaining. They're just doing it. And like, you know, some of them of course want to meet their mentors in person, but they never complain about that either. They just understand this is the reality right now, and they're going to do it. I think one of the positive changes too with our program, I've always wanted to incorporate some more family engagement, and so this has given us a chance to kind of do a little bit of that. So now I'm seeing some of the kids in their homes, and just really getting to like today I was texting one of the kids' parents like, hey, can you hop on? And that would have never happened last year. But just to really show that, like, us as a mentoring organization, we just want to be another support system to them. It's never to like replace parenting or grandparents or whoever they have, or coaches, or it's just really to add into their life another person that's going to be like an accountability partner. You know, a lot of our matches right now are talking like, are you getting your schoolwork done? Do you have enough time to do it? How can I help? Because the mentors are also seeing what the kids are going through, and they just want to help, whatever that may look like. So even if it's just checking in, how are you doing? I'm very thankful to the schools that are still allowing us to mentor, because they see it as a priority, that they know that these relationships are important, especially at a time like this. So I'm just forever grateful that we're still allowed to mentor, and that they're working with me on changing our whole structure of our program as well. So I think the kids are resilient, the mentors are doing awesome and being flexible and showing up however they can. So I'm just grateful for the kids and the volunteers.
Awesome. So my last question, I feel like you guys have already kind of touched on it, talking about just positive changes that we've seen from COVID. But I'd like to kind of, I guess, answer the last two questions too. And then obviously if you guys have anything you want to add when it comes to those positive changes, you know, I think really what the two of you have said have certainly been what we have seen also, what I personally have seen, you know, just seeing the human spirit, people wanting to be helping. What's that? Is it Mr. Rogers' quote about look for the helpers? You know, like the helpers are really stepping up. And not only that, but I feel like some of those helpers who maybe didn't know where they fit or how they could step up have really kind of been able to step into those roles. We have seen, you know, Marion has opened new businesses since COVID has started. We've seen new nonprofits starting. We have seen a lot of, you know, things like that. Now, granted, I know that we're not without the negative impact also, but we certainly have seen some of that, you know, tenacious attitude, I guess, when it comes to Marion, and that persistence and looking for the best, really kind of stepping up. And so, you know, I agree with you. I think that there has been, as a parent who has to do some of this virtual schooling, like, I think that there has had to be, and I'm not saying that I feel like I have been, you know, bad about that, but I certainly have had to be a little bit more involved, which maybe is kind of going back to like how when we were in school, because, you know, like when we were in school, we would have homework we'd come home with, and, you know, talking to our family a little bit more about school. And I haven't had that with my kids up until now. And, you know, they don't have homework. This is, you know, homework isn't a thing. We read at home for 20 minutes, obviously, which is very important. But at the same time, the schoolwork was done at school. And so it's been interesting now to kind of have to take that like more hands-on approach again. And so I wonder if that's just an overall thing. You know, parents are getting more involved again in education. We're getting more involved in what our kids are doing. And obviously that's a great thing. That's fantastic. And so one of the things I will say, you know, unfortunately, negatively, we've had a couple shootings in Marion this year. We've had, you know, I think that people are getting restless. And so the one thing I will say is, obviously I see how even more so our services are super imperative, as in like our 3 organizations and any of those organizations that we've talked about or that I've had on in the past few months, and the ones I haven't even gotten to yet.
Yeah.
You know, the services that are being provided to the community. I think the one thing, if people are out there listening, that I would like to just have noted is, if you have a need, to reach out, because we have so many organizations in Marion who want to help families, who want to help children, and have the ability to. They just need, that's what we're doing, hopefully, here, is connecting those people, those resources in our community. So do you guys have anything else you want to add as far as positive changes you've seen since COVID?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question because life is so abnormal right now, but there's
Yeah.
also normalcy as well. There's still the mundane and maybe even more so, and there's still light and there's still things to be excited about and hopeful about. Sometimes though, it's not personal excitement, it's for yourself. It's maybe being hopeful for other people, right? Like
Yeah.
I have 2 grandparents who are of that age and vulnerable health, and we're talking about something like a vaccine coming out. It affects me obviously, but I also know that means that my grandmother, I might be able to see her in person in the next few months.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that you can get back to that de-stressed or calm brain is kind of dreaming about the future and what that might look like and what's going on in your present that may not be fully formed, but are seeds that are being planted for the future. And to that end, one of the ways that I can kind of join in that is asking myself, like, what's going on in the world right now and how can I be a part of that? So even though a lot of us are home at work, we're still going to the grocery store, we still got to pay a bill, we still have to go to the bank, things like that. So you're seeing things, you're reading articles on Facebook, all that stuff. So what's going on in the world that's hopeful, that points to a hopeful future, and how can I start to be a part of that? Because we can need and ask for things, and also one of the ways that we can receive is giving. So just as much as if you need support, please reach out. If you have something to give or want to give, then please reach out as well.
Yeah.
It's an all hands on deck. It's a collective impact thing. And I know that there are so many different skills and talents that people don't realize they have that are valuable. So what's going on? How can I be a part of that? And something will come up and you'll see something.
That's great. Awesome.
I think positively, maybe not so much in our fields, in different other fields as well, but some business organizations are realizing people can work from home, or they don't have to be here 8 to 5 every day. And I think just as a mother of little girls, like that is so important to me, that my work has become a little bit more flexible in the sense that I've been home a little bit more. So while I know there are several people that are suffering and without jobs and without food, and I know that there is a huge negative impact, but if you're asking me to find positive, then I would say that I think there's some positive in all of this virtual and sudden shift in our culture for the workplace. I think it's kind of a positive, if I will have to find one. Ide, to piggyback back of what you said too, I was on a phone call yesterday with somebody in our community that's just wanting to help more. Luckily he has money and just in different skills, and he's a mentor of ours, so he's just wanting, and he read an article one time that he was like, what changed my perspective was like, how am I using my platform to better my community? And I think a pandemic is one that will show you like our time here is so precious, and how are we going to give back and help others and build up our community is something that I think a lot of us have kind of reevaluated during this time. And it may look different than this whole thing started, or it may not, but I think a lot of people are more in the giving spirit, kind of like what Ide was saying. Like I think people are looking for ways to help that when they can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how can we leave Marion in a better position than where it was when we started, or when we started, helping.
And I think a lot of people are focusing on like, okay, 2020 was a hot mess express, but let's like, we're rolling into 2021, like 21, how are we going to do all of these things differently? Like I know just as me as like a mentoring organization, we're trying to set things up so that like our next school year is going to be our best school year. And like, so I know people are kind of taking this time to reevaluate programs and processes and procedures and how we do things and what's best practices. And then, so moving forward, hopefully we can just be the best version of ourselves.
Fantastic. Anything else you guys want to add?
Was this a blooper episode? Was this a blooper episode?
And I don't have a super secret, like unprompted question for you guys because I've already.
Oh, surprise!
You want me to come up with one?
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic. I'm like, I'm not telling you my favorite color. It's blue.
I feel like we've already gotten a lot of information out of Ide that he may not have prepared on to share, as far as like 13th century Dutch Renaissance music.
Ide, maybe if you want to drop some links in the comments below.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
On your page, I will drop, there's a video, greatest Renaissance hits of the spring of 1348. Boom.
Okay.
With that,
and on that note,
thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you have any ideas on future episodes of this podcast, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contact.
That might be better than this.
Yeah.
I think this was great. It's awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.